Hey guys, so I was saying to myself I wish I had more material for YouTube videos, and all of a sudden everything's just breaking. So I just walked past my wine fridge and noticed this. It's flashing EEF, so I'm guessing that means there's something wrong, it's not reaching temperature or what. So let's rip this thing out and see what's going on. First thing I like to do is look at the tag on the back if there is one, and just take note of the model number just for future reference. This is a MCWC50DST by Magic Chef. Now it's time to take that access panel on the bottom off and see what's going on. Hey buddy. Alright, now that we got the access cover off, let's unplug it and plug it back in and see what happens, if anything. Unplugging it and plugging it back in just gives that computer control kind of a reset or reboot, if you will. Okay, so we're plugged back in. And let's give it a second. Okay, everything's running. The evaporator fan is spinning. I hear the compressor. This might be one of those intermittent problems. Alright, so let that run for a minute. Might as well give you guys a quick tour of what's going on here. So, on this side here, you have your condenser coil. So the refrigerant comes out of this compressor right here as a superheated gas, flows along this tube here into the condenser coil, which is kind of like a radiator. Think of the radiator in your car. This fan draws air across the condenser coil, turns that superheated gas into a liquid. That liquid then flows into the evaporator coil, which is behind this upper panel here, where it flows probably across a fixed orifice tube in a unit like this and does a phase change from a liquid to a gas, and in doing so it absorbs heat, hence cooling the wine. It then travels back down this pipe over here back to the compressor to complete the cycle. So this refrigerant coming back in here should be relatively cool, and the superheated gas should be warm, and it is. So far everything appears to be operating correctly. What's very common on wine fridges, and I did do another video about this maybe a year or two ago, is the compressor start relay, which is under this box over here. Really all that does, and I've learned a little bit about those things since I shot the last video, it's called a PTC, a positive temperature coefficient. So really what that does is that when it's at low temperature, that completes a circuit to energize the start windings in the compressor. And as soon as those start windings are energized, that PTC heats up and it opens the circuit. So at room temperature or close to room temperature, you should have pretty close to 0 ohms across that start relay. And as it gets hot, it should be open circuit. So sometimes those go bad. Some of them you can clean, you can freshen them up, but it's usually better to just replace them if you can find them. But again, so far everything seems to be okay here. I'm guessing it's probably some kind of intermittent problem with the start relay. Let's let it run now. So I just put this cover back on because some of that air that comes off the condenser coil is probably designed to keep the compressor cool, and we don't want to overheat the compressor. I don't know if this is going to be one of those intermittent problems. Those are always fun to troubleshoot. But yeah, if it is, I might just replace that start relay. And we don't know how sophisticated the control system is either. It could just be a simple matter of, hey, you know what, I'm calling for cooling, but I'm not seeing any cooling, so maybe it just sets the code then. Anyway, let's let it run. Fast forward a few weeks, and I think I caught this thing, this problem that we have with this wine fridge in the act. So notice the temperature is 62. Normally the compressor comes on about when it reaches 60 degrees in there. So I actually walked by the wine fridge, just happened to hear the compressor overload clicking. So just a sharp little click that typically indicates that the compressor is consuming too much current, and that can happen if the start windings aren't getting energized. So in this case, I'm pretty sure our problem is a bad PTC relay, or PTC starter, I should say. So I suspect this will eventually say EEF, or that error code that we saw at the beginning of this video. When it does, we'll get started with the repair. Just want to confirm that is the problem before we start swapping parts. Temperature is still climbing, and you might have just heard that click. So it tried to start the compressor and failed again. So it was 62 before, now the temperature is 64. So yeah, we definitely have a problem here. Okay, the temperature's up to 66 degrees now. It's not getting any better. So I think it's time to fix this. Now, there's a couple things it could be, but I already know what the problem is here. You could have a locked up compressor where the compressor's windings melted, or the reciprocating portion is locked up for whatever reason. That's not terribly common. It does happen sometimes, but I don't believe that's the problem with this particular fridge. What probably is the problem is a bad PTC starter. It's a positive temperature coefficient starter that basically will energize the starting windings very, very briefly just to get the compressor going. And once the compressor is going, this cuts off energy to the start windings. So normally these things are about a $10 part. You could pick these things up on Amazon. I think this was, maybe it was 10, 15 bucks. The part number on this one, see if we can focus here. Come on. Well, if you can't read it, it's P6R8MD. And this is actually a genuine LG part. A lot of times you'll find these cheap Chinese knockoffs on Amazon and eBay and whatnot, and they don't last that long. You can also sometimes take these apart and clean them. Inside, it's basically just a resistor. So you pop off this clip here, and you just clean the contacts. I'll do that for you on the old one. I'll show you how to do that. I'm not going to do it on the new one. So let's get going. Let's swap this thing out. Okay, let's kill power to the fridge by unplugging it. Let's get my screwdriver, take this back panel off. Hopefully you guys can see. And hopefully we don't have a fried compressor. I mean, it's possible, but given that this thing works sometimes and not others, I'm guessing we have just a bad relay or a PTC starter. All right, so we got that apart. Now, the component we need to replace is under this cover over here. Can you guys see that? Let's see. Let's get you situated over here. Sorry, hope you don't lose your lunch. So we need to get under this cover right here. There's usually a screw, and sometimes there's a screw on the other side too. They're loads of fun to get to. If you have one over there. Let's see. Do we? We do not. Okay, pop that cover off. Again, do this while the unit is unplugged. And now the PTC starter is right there, just kind of clips on. Hopefully you can see that. Let's zoom in a little bit. This is your starter right here. And this one only has one wire going to it. So I'm just gonna unhook that wire right there. And we're just gonna plug it into the same terminal on the new one. And just plop that back on there. And that's it. That's a $10 part. Real easy repair if that's what the problem is. Now, let's plug the wine fridge in and make sure it works correctly. Hopefully you guys heard that because the compressor just kicked on. It's running right now. I put the cover back on over the PTC starter, or the compressor terminals, I should say, and it is running. So that fixed our problem. Our compressor is not locked up, it's not seized. Just had a bad starter. So let's go take this apart and see what it looks like inside. Okay, let's take this thing apart. All you have to do is pop this little stainless steel clip off. Sometimes you can do it with a screwdriver. It's not always easy. Just don't stab yourself. There we go. And this back just pops out. Now some things you can't take apart. I've seen some that are glued together. This one is not one of those. So inside, it's pretty simple. You have this. Oh, it's pretty beat to hell. Jeez. Okay. So this is supposed to come out. Let's see if we can get it to come out. This is your, oh, just disintegrated. Look at that. So this one we're not going to be able to clean. It just blew up. Let's see if we can get our contacts out. Maybe it'll come apart. Yeah. So you see here, Come on, focus. So there used to be a disc in here that served that PTC function. So again, just to recap, when this thing is cold, it'll conduct a current, and when it does, it gets real hot real fast and then stops conducting current. That's how the start windings are energized and de-energized. So what happened is this thing just totally came apart. It was never going to work again. I actually cleaned this one already a couple months ago. When I first took this fridge in, it had this problem where it would start and then die and whatnot. So I figured, you know what, let me try cleaning up the contacts to see if I can buy some time. I did, but I also ordered that new starter, or that PTC starter that we just installed, because I knew this was going to happen. Didn't know it was going to have this much carnage though. Jeez. But again, if your starter's more intact than this one, what you can do is sometimes just take some light sandpaper, clean up these contacts here on either side, clean up this terminal here, and you can buy some time and sometimes even repair it permanently. That was not the case in this one though, unfortunately. So this one's junk, nothing we can do, no repairs we can do here. This is a lost cause. I'll give you a link in the description to this part number in case you have this exact same fridge. Maybe you can see it a little bit better on the video here. Anyway, hope you guys found this helpful. I'll tell you, a lot of the fridges that I get in the shop here, and I don't know why, but I seem to get fridges a lot of them have this problem. A lot of them just have bad starters. You find these things on the side of the road, wine fridges, even small, like household refrigerators that have these PTC starters. You find them on the side of the road and all he needs is a $10 part. This is probably a $1,000 wine fridge that someone was getting rid of because they had this problem. And $10 part and we're back in business. Anyway, hopefully you guys find this helpful. If you did, please subscribe, give me a thumbs up. Stay safe, everybody.